Hand on my heart, Pragya, I mean this when I say this. I've seen mothers being the most productive when it
Of
comes to
course.
projects and productivity. It makes sense, right? They know how to manage their household, the kids, the husband, the entire chores. How is it that they are going to fail?
Unless you're very, very lucky. In Indian organizations, be it MNCs also, maternity tax is real. A woman cannot have it all. It's been shown that way. Any content, you'll see a male guy who's a business leader, professional. He'll have a wife, he'll have young kids who are also successful, teenager, or maybe, whatever. Females would either be divorced or without kids if they're successful.
A man in the household or a man in corporate might have a convenient argument, hey, you do not need to work. But from a female's perspective, your financial independence and financial freedom is your toolkit to take right independent decisions throughout your life. And so let's start, Pragya. Very excited and privileged to have you on the Shatakshi show. I understand that you have been working in the marketing industry across FMCG and you have done your MBA from IIM Kozhikode. So very, very excited to have you on the Shatakshi show. Today's topic is extremely interesting and something that I'm deeply passionate about. But before we get into the topic of motherhood and career, would absolutely love if you can introduce yourself in your own words. I would absolutely love if you can start from the start. By start, I mean, how's your family background and history? Where did you grow up? What was childhood for you was like? How was your mother? How has it shaped you as a mother? So there are so many questions, but let's start with your childhood and your story.
Thank you so much, Satakshi, for having me and for the brief introduction that you have shared about my professional journey. But to introduce myself and tell you guys more about me, I'm Pragya. Was born and brought up in Ghaziabad, and I lived with my parents and my brother. So we were a very small family. Both my parents are in government jobs. My mother is a teacher and she's a principal right now in Delhi. And my dad is also a professor. So for a large time, I mean, for a very long time, he had been working as a senior scientist in based out of Hyderabad. So my mom had actually raised us alone, and he moved with us in the north when I was in class 12th. And within months of he coming here, I actually moved out. So four of us have actually not lived like a family together. And of course, I've seen my mother work throughout her time. The maternity leave used to be of 3 months, so now I can't even imagine how that time would have been for her and for other mothers as well. So yeah, and then that's how my childhood had been. Then I did my engineering from Lucknow and my MBA from IIM Kozhikode in 2014. Post that, I've had multiple stints across industries. Like first was based out of Dubai. Then I moved back to India, worked with Vodafone for 3 years in Haryana and in Bangalore as well. From past about 6 7 years, I've been in Gurgaon, worked with Kohler and a early stage startup called Nat Habit. And I'm married and I am blessed with two beautiful daughters. One is 3.5 years old and another one is 1.5 years old. So came back from a very educated family where education is the center and the core of what you are supposed to do as you grow up, and there is no other option, also option that there is no other way to look at professional life. You have to study, get good marks, get into a repute college, pick a career, and like that's how the life has been. I think a lot of people would relate to that point of view. Yeah.
Very beautiful, Pragya. And like I told you, that as someone who's not a mother yet, I also take so much inspiration from the kind of balancing of career that you have done. I also think that secretly and subconsciously, we are all learning from our own mothers, how to be a
Yes.
wife, how to be a mother, how to be a career professional as well. And we both connected through your popular post on LinkedIn, which I think certainly was the need of the hour where on one end you were expressing your frustration, but the same end you were kind of bringing that needed advocacy that, hey, mothers can also be productive. And I'll just take a brief step back. At GGI, for example, we also have a Curie Fellowship program specifically for mothers. And hand on my heart, Pragya, I mean this when I say this, I've seen mothers being the most productive when it
Of
comes to
course.
projects and productivity. It makes sense, right? They know how to manage their household, the kids, the husband, the entire chores. How is it that they are going to fail? In fact, on the contrary, I genuinely believe and feel that mothers make extraordinary career professionals. But coming to you, you have had fantastic, successful 11 years of experience, almost a decade in the industry, and you voiced out your concern around motherhood and hiring. How have you navigated this challenge? And it's not even hush hush, it is a reality because generationally, a lot of women have not managed the two. So, over to you. How have you managed careerhood and your motherhood?
Like as I already mentioned, like I have always seen my mother working. I've seen my masis working, and along equal to my dad, or rather more, because of course they do share, not share, rather they bear the load of the household chores and raising up kid all alone. And for me, I have seen my mother do it all alone because, as I mentioned, my father was not by choice, but was absent, and we would meet each other hardly like 3 or 4 times in a year. Those days, flight tickets were expensive, even phone call were luxury. STD calls, so that was a different time altogether, how we grew up. And for that generation, who were the first ones to actually break in this working career and managing household, it was a different environment altogether. And I'm really glad for the kind of step the previous generation of females have taken, and the way they have paved for us, and we still find it so difficult. I can't even imagine what they would have to go through on a daily basis, proving their worth at home, is speaking with, and trying to uh, explain it to their own parents and brothers. At least we have their support now. If no one else, at least our family stand for them in at least most of the cases. So for me, there was never an option of a choice between mother and career. uh, I have seen females struggle. I have seen them raising kids alone. I myself had been a kid, who used to lock the door after my mom left and come back home to open the lock. So I knew the kind of impact it has. But then the way it made us quite independent at a very early, we were doing things which kids of our age were not back then. So I knew it very well that there was no choice of choosing one over other. There was never a question. All about how would I be able to maintain a balance. Luckily, in my case, at least my mom was a teacher, so she would be back latest by 1:30 or 2, which is not a luxury for working professionals like us. And I worked till the last day of my pregnancy. I worked during my maternity leave as well, attended meetings. Rather, I took a short mat leave of 4 months instead of 6. Not very proud of, and I would not even promote it. But yes, I mean, that's what I did at that point of time. It's a very different experience, and this is something which nobody preps you up for. uh, you have seen others, you have heard, you have read articles, but until it impacts you, you don't realize what you're getting into. So for me, the navigation has been a lot of discovery of myself as a professional, as a person. There's a shift which happens as well in your own mindset, a bit of priorities which kind of changes, and your dynamics. In fact, your body changes a lot. So there are emotional turmoils which you go through. Hormones are up here and there. Brain fog is a real issue which people don't talk about. I mean, I during my pregnancy, I can, there was a moment where I would keep on forgetting things and feel like, okay, okay, it's a pregnancy brain, it should be fine after I deliver. However, it didn't go for at least 3 years. And there was a moment when I actually paused and thought about 400 divided by 20. Is it 20? Am I correct? And I doubted myself. So that's how bad it could go, and the kind of self doubt it could lead to. However, yes, it's about figuring out yourself, uh, and connecting with who you are and what your value system lies for and what you have planned earlier, or how do you want to reshape it in your future. So for me, I knew it very well that I have to set stronger examples for my girls, just like my mom has. And I know that they need me, but then they'll always need me. No matter if I work, no matter where I are, no matter if they're 1 or they're 14 or they're like even 30 or 35, or like I still need my mother, right? So I kind of navigated and took one day at a time. There was a lot of discovery, there was a lot of emotional turmoil, there was a lot of support. I seeked support from a lot of friends, of course, who have been through this journey, and took one day at a time to navigate what I want to do, and how do I take my next step to progress gradually.
Wow, it sounds so much, Pragya, to take in. And I read somewhere that the brain fog is basically a scientific process so that the pain of the mom goes numb and she becomes the truest mother in her own shape and format. I would also want to maybe comment on so many people question why does a mother need to work, right? And I think it almost goes back to this point that women are empowered now, slowly and steadily. And of course, there is still a long journey compared to urban India versus rural India. But the maximum drop off happens when you become a mother. And a man in the household or a man in corporate might have a convenient argument, hey, you do not need to work. But from a female's perspective, your financial independence and financial freedom is your toolkit to take right independent decisions throughout your life. And when you talked about your mother, I was thinking about my own bloodline. So, for example, I am 33. I run two ventures myself. I can call the shots that I want to because of the freedom, not just financially, but also of time that I've got. I go back to my mother when she was 33, she had two children. She raised all three of us beautifully. That's not to belittle her achievements, but she was a homemaker and continues to be a homemaker. But she was carrying the weight of the generation during her time. And if I go back to my grandmother, at 33, I think my grandmother was planning to be a grandmother, right? So you
Yeah.
are absolutely right. There is a privilege that your and my generation is carrying, but that's not to say that all things are hunky glorified, right? Today, which now makes me go to a little bit more emotion related question, right? I'm a very ambitious woman. You're from I am Corey Code. I'm sure that's one signal to say that, hey, Pragya is a very ambitious woman. Do you think the definition of ambition and the definition of fulfillment somehow has changed for you after being a mother? If it has, and if it has not, then that's also fine. But let's define success and fulfillment for you.
Okay. So, contrary to a very common opinion, of how you as a female or as a person change as soon as you give birth. That picture of, oh my God, this is the best day of my life. I've become a mom, and the way it's being glorified by media or by people, how they talk about it. My experience was not like that. Okay, as you said, yes, I had been ambitious, rather over ambitious, and I often get to hear from my own friends that I critique myself and I'm too harsh on myself, for that matter, because there's always this urge of doing more and more. So, but yes, I wanted to be a mother as well. So talking about uh, this definition of success. So since childhood, or say once you get into the work stream, or when you have just started your professional journey, it's mostly the success has been about your score sheet, the ranks which you get, the jobs that you land. But it was more about seeing the pride in your parents' eyes.
Yeah.
that tinkle in their eyes when they get to hear that you have done something, have achieved something. It could be in any manner. For few people it would be landing a job in an amazing firm, or what do we say, landing XYCTC component, and then how they would just introduce you to their colleagues or their friends and family and take pride in that. And for your own sense of fulfillment, at least for me, it was more about standing at that podium, receiving those awards. And professionally, it was about building businesses up, solving complex problems, building products. So that is something which had given me a lot of immense fulfillment. And reading those customer stories and testimonials where they really loved something which I had worked on, so the kind of kick which you get, that was really really fulfilling. And I never thought this would change after I birth and deliver my kids, or I have my kids. But this motherhood, or say the love towards your kid, also grow gradually. It's a process. It just doesn't happen overnight. Like, you are also a new mom, there are a lot of things which you figure out. And the fact of the matter is that slowly, gradually, bit by bit, it does change you. It changes you philosophically, it rewires your brain. Of course, there are multiple studies which have happened, and how you change as a person, how your hormones changes you, how your brain rewires to take care of your kids and others. And but now I feel the fulfillment, the yes, the professional fulfillment still stays there, but there's a new dimension to it. So there's an added layer. The older one has not gone away, or say has not been replaced, but there is a new layer which I get to experience, the joy of seeing my kids solve a complex, not a complex, like a tiny puzzle for the first time, or to take them to swim and see them just hear out their stories, the imagination. Like, in fact, I'll give an example today. My elder one is 3.5 years old, and right now as we're speaking, she's with the neighbors. And I just happened to drop by to just check on her, if she's fine, and I'll go back to her after we end this discussion. She had drawn a picture with a crayon, and she has drawn a head, uh, a body, two legs, two hands, and the bulged stomach, and there's a round ball inside. And I said, "What is this?" Okay, this is you, and then there is this chotu inside you. I can't tell you like how it felt like. Was it fulfilling? Yes. Did I feel proud? Yes, I did. And of course, an immense sense of happiness. That is not something which my other also the previous words which I had said, the which I would have got. No, it's very very different. So yes, the sense of fulfillment does change, it evolves. And now I think success would be seeing the pride or warmth in my kids' eyes, whether I'm able to do best for them, give them what I didn't have, or do just simply provide for them as best as I could, nurture them with the values which I want to.
Very beautiful. I genuinely have a theory in life, Pragya, that if you start becoming more personally fulfilled, then slowly and steadily, we might still do our dharma, we might still do our karma, but slowly and steadily, we start distancing ourselves from the validation that we seek from the society. So I kind of relate to what you are saying, that you are now having duality in the definition when it comes to fulfillment and the definition of success. With that, let's talk about the maternity tax that you had mentioned, right? So, how do you think that would have impacted your confidence or your sense of belonging? Do you think in team settings before your maternity break versus after? Were there any unspoken signs where you felt, oh, I am not as part of it as I used to be? I'm just thinking and speaking out loud. And your sense of self confidence. Maybe there were no external changes, but deep down inside, were there any new insecurities that you had because nobody has trained us for us to do this, right? So, over to you on maternity tax.
So maternity tax, or say maternity for that matter, it is not a topic which is very prevalently talked about, openly discussed about. So, like when I got pregnant, I really didn't have any idea what I was getting into. I would have heard from my family in-laws that you need to, reproduce, you need to have babies. But what it actually is, nobody talks about it. And I did not have friend circles. Like I was the first one among my friends who got pregnant. All my cousins are younger to me, so that was the first in that angle as well. So it was a discovery which kept on happening, and revelation. There was a moment when I was just sitting in the in the office and just crying for no reason, and I had no idea what's happening, and I didn't know what to do. The There were like points where I would just feel lethargic, and that is when I started reading about it. That's when I started understanding that my body is working even when I'm not, even while I'm resting, because I'm creating a human being. So it's a huge thing. So I had no clue what I was signing up for, what it would do to me, what it would do to my body, and what it would do to my career. So, even though you give your best, you try to give your best because that's the kind of a person you are. You have been ambitious. It's not like you become pregnant and that ambition just goes away, vanishes away, and now I just want to relax, chill, raise baby. That doesn't happen. For a few, yes, it might be, but then that's a choice which they make, and that's completely fine. No judgments over there. But it did not happen in my case. I was still as ambitious. As I mentioned before, I worked till the last day of my pregnancy, both the times. Like people in my office would say, please don't come to office tomorrow, please don't come, you are back again, why are you in office again? So that's what I was hearing. But the thing is, it felt really good to me to go to work, because that of course gave a sense of fulfillment, a purpose that things needs to be done, and took my mind off from, say, lethargic or fatigue, and that it gives you a sense of looking something forward to. But directly or indirectly, I also paid a very hefty maternity tax. If I have to combine the monetary angle, there would be a good enough value to attach to it. Of course, you can't do it very like, I mean, there is no formula to it, but yes, I know very well. Like there was lost increment cycle, there would be lost variable components, and so the thing is, when you go through this and you are dealing with a pregnancy which you are not aware of what you're getting into, you kind of correlate those things as well, which impacts you mentally. Like, why is it happening to me? And then you kind of hold a grudge towards your own baby as well. Is it, had I not been pregnant, I would have done this, I would have achieved that. Right now, I would be earning this, I would have cracked that interview. And of course, like a lot of it would be in your head, but yes, these thoughts do creep in, and some of it is reality as well. It's not all in your head. You go through it, and I did speak to a lot of my friends, my uh, other females, other women from IIMs, and there was a resonance, yes. So during my first pregnancy, it was more difficult because it was more because you didn't know, I didn't know. So it came up to like a surprise, and then hence the emotions were more amplified. But for the second pregnancy, yes, I knew. So I was well prepared. I was aware, and I strategized accordingly. I prioritized my days. I prioritized my things accordingly, and I made my choices accordingly. Uh, what I realized was that unless you're very very lucky, and like exceptionally lucky, uh, in Indian organizations, be it MNCs also, or large organizations, startups led by any sort of industries, maternity tax is real. It could be in any way, either your delayed increments, amount of increment, lost projects, or say just an opportunity which you have lost, lost. an interview you could have cleared, or a monetary loss, as I mentioned, that you do not get your variable component, because the laws are also quite gray in this area. So I went through all this, and there was definitely a shack of confidence, because felt that I'm lagging behind my peers. In fact, I spoke to somebody few after a few days my post went viral, and there were a lot of DMs I got. And she told me that she and her husband both started their career at the same level in the same firm, but 10 years down the line, and because of the maternity thing, the guy is much ahead. Now, that is not because of just pure caliber or luck, right? And it's not just one off case. It might seem circumstantial, and there could be n number of factors you can uh, add to it. But when you collate data and you put a number to it, then it comes out that how real maternity tax is. And the number of interviews, I was wondering, like, because I had been on a break since May and I had been interviewing with a lot of firms. And I was just wondering what's going on, because it has never happened. At max, it would take 2 months or 3 months for me to land a job, not more than that. That's how my confidence level was. But like, what's happening? That's when my friend, my childhood friend, she just pinged me, ki, do you mention your kids by any chance? I said, yeah, I do. She said, don't do it. I'm like, how can I not do it? Because they explicitly asked. And she said, ki, the same thing happened to me. She has one kid. She was on a break. She was laid off after her maternity break, and because you can't lay off during the 6 months, so it happened later. But it was not unfair because the organization shut. So, however, it took her more than 1.5 years to get back to workforce. And I'm talking about very sharp person, really good achievements, past history. But then one is the child. The second thing which keeps on adding up to is the gap, and then you keep on wondering what goes wrong in the interviews. But the question is, when they are very explicitly asking you about your family, I cannot lie. At least I could not lie. I would avoid mentioning it if the conversation does not happen. So indirectly, yes, it does impact your confidence as well. But then again, you have to pick yourself up, understand that this is the reality. How do you maneuver and change your strategy, skilling yourself, and be very confident that yes, it's just matter of time. It's just a blip, and in the end, career is a marathon. So we still have like at least 2 decades for me, so which I look forward to.
Wow. No, I think this piece of information is just the load of it is just so huge, because what we are saying is that there is beti padhao, beti bachao, right? Maybe you are teaching the girl child, maybe you're raising her well, and then at an age of 20, she starts working. But then she will become 30, 31, 28, and then a lot of whatever runway that we have built for her, there is a systemic failure. And I think that systemic failure is not just at a policy level, is at a mindset level. At the end of the day,
Yes.
the vice president of the organization will not be questioning, hey, why didn't you hire her? He can say or make up anything that he wants to, right? Which goes so much. And I genuinely think, and I hope that next generation will pay off this debt of not being just to the mothers, because we're realizing that productivity is more important than the number of hours. If the women has to leave at 7 p.m., what matters is has she done the work or not? I had this opportunity of working with a mother. I'm sure she noticed, but I certainly observed that she was not given the strategic priority projects in the organization. And I felt unfair for her. Like, why are you doing this, right? She's talented, she's meritocratic. Why would you do that to her? So I think, Pragya, we are also at a cusp or junction in the conversation where we understand that there is a legit problem, there is a mindset problem, there is a policy problem also. And I'm hoping and I'm sure that there will be certain important stakeholders in the society and corporates who will be listening to this, because, and that's why our opinion and the gravity of this discussion really matters. Let's now talk about the support system. I genuinely also think, looking at my friends who have been mothers, it's a very lonely journey. Of course, your partner and your husband will be there, but at the end of the day, you are the mother. He's not the mother, right? Can be at best a very good father. So let's talk about the support system from families front, and most importantly, given the gamut in which we are doing this conversation, the corporate front. How do you think we can help mothers better navigate that 1 to 2 year window so that there is a net good productivity to the organization and the nation as well? So over to you. Happy to hear your opinions.
So there's a saying that it takes a village to raise kids. But the thing is, nobody's ready to be that village. And among the say co-parent or say other parents who we discuss with and we speak to this, I just came across this thing. Two parents are just not enough. Like two humans are not enough to raise a kid. There definitely have to be minimum three, right? So, and it's not just about one kid, it's not just about your kid. When you're talking about village, we have to be that village, because it's not about one mother, it's also about our future generation. So how well we raise them now, how we nurture them now, the value system which you bring in, the because all your cognitive abilities of a kid also happens during those 0 to 2 years gap. And absent parents have a very long term impact on their psyche, which eventually will lead to productivity in the workplaces a generation later. So it is high time that we really need to pay attention to this, and especially the policy makers. They are quite essential here. There are still a lot of gray areas in both maternity and paternity laws, in your childcare assistances at
Can
workplaces,
we list
flexible
down or give
hours.
examples of those gray areas?
Yeah. So, like, I myself have read the Maternity Act, but then there are other components in your, say, salary structure, which are not very clearly defined if the employer is supposed to pay or if there is a way around. Okay. Now, during that time, I also spoke and checked with multiple people. Few of them said yes, they were given, say, for example, your CTC would have a fixed and a variable component, right? And in certain roles, your variable component is duly paid monthly or quarterly, and in certain roles, it is supposed to be paid annually. Now, maternity is like 9 months pregnancy and 6 months, so it is already more than a year, just this time period. Okay, and definitely more than 1 year to set up all the biases which comes into leave an impact or dent. And one appraisal cycle for a very ambitious person, no matter how much you say that money is not important, or itna, what you'll do with all this career, kids are important and all, but it does pinch, and it does hurt, because in the end you have done that hard work. So coming back to the point of the laws, so they do say that you're supposed to pay the mother for 6 months during the maternity leave, and that uh, nobody says anything about components like, say, variable or other perks, or say ESOPs. How does, there are no laws, and now there are more and more startups which are coming in. So how the way they structure your remuneration could be very different, which could impact the female. And at that time, you are going to raise a kid, which is also very, very, very expensive in today's time period. So then there is a law which says that any organization which employs more than 50 people should have a crèche facility in the vicinity of 500, within a 500-meter radius. If you can, please name how many such organization do you know of, like even large ones for that matter. And so I was interviewing with one organization long back. So the hiring manager was a female, and she we had a very open conversation regarding, that I would like to bring my kid to work. So like, yeah, you will be the first one to open and inaugurate the crèche facility, because it becomes like a catch 22. So if you have a crèche facility, females do not want to bring their kids in, and those who want to, they do not get the crèche facility. So I think there are still a lot of And same goes with the flexible work policies as well. Defining work hours, or we still are not able to uh, pay people as per their productivity or quality of work. There are still more hour based systems and attendances which comes in picture. So there's a lot which can be done and to prevent and to protect from these biases creeping in when it comes to say policy maker. And of course, one of the very big factor is that we need more females in the workforce. We do. There
Agree to
is,
the top, I suppose. So that is going
yes,
to be the huge advocating factor. Go on.
it might not be 100% advocating factor, but otherwise, like, uh, despite so many years of driving DNI initiatives across a lot of organizations, and talking a lot about it at a global platform, in I think it's just 10 to 11% female leadership at the leadership levels. Like in past 3 months, I happen to speak with a lot of people to interview or just candid conversations. It had been, I just met one female founder. Rest everybody were male. Your CHROs, even CMOs, even if they're selling products to female customers, and of course CEOs, because at this level most of the conversations happen with these guys and not at a mid-level management. And I was just shocked because again, before this it was just a number. And another factor which I, not a factor but a very an observation which I had been seeing since past 6 7 years and have discussed with multiple people across organizations, is that there is this narrative which is built through media. One is through media, and one is what I'm seeing live in front of me. A woman cannot have it all. Okay, it's been shown that way. So if you see any content, you'll see a male guy who's a business leader, professional. He'll have a wife, he'll have young kids who are also successful, teenager, or maybe whatever. Females would either be divorced or without kids if they're successful. And surprisingly, I've seen that personally as well in many organizations. And this is a topic of discussion which I've had with many people. And I said, like, I've seen some it through 6 7 years. Like in my latest organization, I was hired at a GM level and I had a cabin. I was very excited. Oh my God, I got a cabin for the first time. And I had sent pictures to my friends and my family. Over a period of 3 months is when I realized, when I went across all the floors, across different offices in different locations, that other than the head and a legal head, it was just me. There were no other females with the cabin. So there's a very massive, underrepresentation of female workforce. I think yes, policy changes can be done, and there was a narrative that the number of applicants are not enough. There are not enough female talent available to fill these roles. But maybe that could have been true 20 years back. I don't think that's the case now. There are more than enough, but if we keep on let these biases and the systematic failure coming in, how will they come and actually do the job peacefully if they're supposed to? Like,
Right.
if I did not have to pay the maternity tax, I would have been more productive. I would have been more happy. I would have been, you know, more selflessly giving back to the organization in terms of ideas. But because this happened to me at a personal level, it sets up a grudge as well. So there are a lot of changes which can be done at leadership level, at policy level, and at grassroots level as well. So when I mentioned regarding a village, right now, as I said, ki my daughter is at my neighbors. So they are acting as my village as of now. And it's just for a couple of hours. Same way, you have to take your kid for vaccination. The doctors do not sit on Sunday. I'm sorry. Your PTMs do not happen on Saturdays. It's a fact. And PTMs will last till what? Till they turn 16 or 17. Not like, so every year, every age will have different challenges. You just have to step out for a few hours But if that is seen as an employee being absent from work rather than being celebrated as a human or as a good parent, who's present for their kids and living a usual life, the narrative changes and your psyche changes as well. And that indirectly impacts your productivity.
Yeah.
So I think talking about it in open spaces, because males do not discuss the
They have
challenges of
no
kids.
incentive to
Yes,
discuss. I absolutely admire Pragya, the direction in which you have taken this conversation. Frankly, I really admire the courage with which you are being so unabashedly being yourself with regard to your emotion or beat the grudge, because this is a real emotion, right? People feel
yes,
that somebody is going to judge me, but that's as real as it can get. And on the top of it, just talking about that people on the top are men. If a man is sitting in a conference or in front of media and talking about that women can't have it all, I mean, sorry, you have had it convenient. It's a convenient argument. I can never imagine Indra Nui making that argument, right? On the other hand, Indra Nui would rather say, and she's been supportive of our venture at GJ as well, that I have been privileged, right? A woman to rise on the top requires so much more support system. A very secure
yes,
husband who's not insecure of the achievements as well, and which is a very complex topic altogether of how the man
yes,
was
yes, yes.
raised. On the top of it, it also requires, and I'm deeply passionate for the topic you said, how many women are there on the top.
Hmm.
And I think in certain shape or format, people like you and I would have literally thrashed glass ceilings. यार ये कमरा चाहिए हमें. This cabin is ours, and I am going to bloody fight for it, right? And the next time
Yes.
the next generation comes, we kind of give them an opportunity because we know what we have been through this entire situation. With that, we can talk about the mothers who have been on a break, Pragya. So
Mhm.
I know in life I have only once been on a break. I was 22. This was 2.5 months break. I left my first job without having a backup. And everyone in my family was saying this is not an astute thing to do. And I was like, they देंगे, right? But I remember in the second month, uh, I felt there was great deal of humility hitting me, and I'm realizing, oh my God, where am I going to get a job and whatnot? And this is just 2.5 months. I'm imagining the pain, the agony, the anxiety of a mother, and like you are saying, 1.5 years. I am particularly proud that we have created Curie Fellowship program, but it may be fit for a lot of pregnant women and mothers, may not be. Coming from you who has lived this and experienced this, what would be your advice to a mother or a pregnant woman who's on a break and who wants to bounce back in the career?
My first advice to any women for that matter would be prioritize yourself. This is the best thing that you can do. And yes, your kids are important, your work is important, your husband, family. But you will not be able to do justice to any of them if you do not prioritize yourself. We are trying, all of us are trying really hard to get out of it, and maybe doing our bits in some way or other. Some maybe by talking about it, some would be just by doing their best, or maybe struggling. A lot of females have just gone through burnout because they have to maybe work 2x to just prove their mettle. And then there is a guilt that I'm not able to give my best to work because my kid is not well at home, and vice versa, having a
Guilt
mom's
to the
kid as well,
baby,
that
right?
I'm at work. Yes, so it's a dual guilt which you have to go through, right? You have to accept these emotions, these are real, and don't let anybody discourage you from feeling them and then say that everything is all right. It's okay if everything is not all right. But having accepting it, the strength lies in you. You just have to find it for yourself. So be practical, be patient, and everyone has a different timeline. There is no to get back to work, or not. Like, as I said, I got back in 4 months, doesn't mean I'm advocating it. Please don't. Yeah, your body, everybody needs different rest, every baby needs very different care, every person has a very different pregnancy. There are females who really need that bed rest because they have been advised by doctor, they are not making it up. But then there are females like me who were lucky enough who could work till the last year of their pregnancy. So take one day at a time, prioritize yourself, and take things at your own pace. Another thing is, if you happen to take a break or you catch time, even though yes, I agree it's very very difficult, but then for your own sanity, I believe having certain time for yourself away from baby also helps a lot in your mental health. Make sure that you're spending certain time to upskill yourself. It could be professionally or even while you're pursuing your hobbies. uh, like I baked a cake for the first time in my life during this break. I finished a painting. I read a couple of books. And the wonders it does to you and your level of self confidence and your happiness, which will be fueled back to your kids as well as your work when you get back fully refreshed, is immense. We just, negate breaks in such a bad manner. It's such a wonderful thing to actually have. And networking. One thing females really lack at, including me, is networking. I mean, men surprisingly, or I mean, the way they are raised, or howsoever, if they are like, they have that innate ability and not just ability, but lot of time, bandwidth, and opportunities to network. Females do not. Please make an extra effort to do it. And right now, thank God, we have WhatsApp. It's a more connected world. You, even if you are you might not be confident enough or you do not have time to go and meet with somebody physically, take out time to just drop a hi and then lead the conversation. And most important thing is value yourself and do not reject yourself while you're applying for jobs. Uh, so long back, I do not remember the study which but then I read this, that males tend to apply for jobs for which they are underqualified. And the job has, if say is job needs 10 years of experience, even males with 5 years or 4 years will keep on applying. Females are, on the other hand, do the opposite. They undervalue themselves and like 10 years, maybe I'm not relevant. And like I might be sounding so confident as of now, but even I go through these insecurities. So I try to propagate this to everybody, that there are enough people out there to reject you. You be sure that you are not one of them.
Beautiful. I absolutely advocate this idea. We should not self reject before the world does. And
Yes.
let me underline, highlight, and bold the idea that you shared on not killing your emotions. In fact, I recently went through a very extreme experience in my life. And I remember feeling these emotions of anger, resentment, just deep grief. And the best thing that I was told by my support system was to not hide those emotions or succumb those emotions, because you might hide them now. They have a very weird and nasty way of coming later in your life, which
Yes.
might, in certain shape or format, not just impact you, but people around you as well. So you can hide and run away from emotions, but eventually, at certain point of time, you'll have to deal with them. With that, Pragya, we come to the last question, and I'm just so proud that you have two daughters through which you will be able to continue with this legacy. If your two daughters were to watch this 18 years down the line, what would be one message, and one message only, you would want to give to your 18-year-old daughters around courage, compassion, and not giving up?
I want them to know and understand that courage is not the absence of fear. Rather, it's moving forward despite it. Uh, so, this is one thing which I would want them to know. And one virtue which, or say one ability which I definitely want them to take upon, is the ability to say no. First thing is to be aware of that they have this choice, and it is not wrong to exercise that choice. As much, like at least for me, like I had been always a yes person, and now I understand what it can do to you. So when you spoke about compassion, I think compassion in itself, or say will, it's one of those things which can make a lot of changes in the environment we live in. As I also said before, that we need to have workplaces which are more human, right? Which it should be okay for even males to talk about kids at home and their routine, what they are going through, their emotions. And like, if you talk to them about it, they are more sensitized, and the more you open and discuss about it, more sensitized they are, and they are more towards you and helping you, and maybe becoming that village for you. And it's a win-win, because in your absence they get a chance, and because when they get a chance, instead of seeing it negatively, they stand up for it, and they get exposure because you were absent. So for my kids, compassion is something which I have been any which ways teaching them since very young age. We have a pet at home, and they are all like, I have three daughters. So yeah, I think this is what I just hope if they see this after 18 years, so they do have these, which is all already by then.
I'm sure they will be smiling year to year, looking at how beautiful, courageous, and successful their mom is. And I loved the conversation, Pragya. It has certainly been much more than I was anticipating on this call. And congratulations on all your achievement. And I loved the advice on saying no, and maybe saying no without a justification. Many people don't realize no in itself is a sufficient sentence,
Yes.
even if it's a word. Thank you once again. And I wish all the mothers listening to it, and maybe the husbands or brothers who can share this or forward this with their respective sisters, wives, or even mothers. We wish them all the best. And if our chat helped them even 1%, I think we would have considered our task well done. That's it. Thank you so much.